So today I'm going to measure the studio for its acoustics to use with the Arc Studio system that I've got from IK Multimedia. I'm going to turn off the fan because I need in here to be quiet. Obviously there's only a certain amount I can do. The room isn't soundproof, it's acoustically treated, but it's not soundproof, and we live under a flight path. So I can't stop cars and motorbikes going by, I can't stop someone pressing the doorbell in the middle of the take, and I can't stop planes from flying overhead. But everything in the house is quiet, I'm the only one here. I'm going to turn the fan off and get started. As you'll see on the screen, I have the Arc 4 analysis system software ready to go. The first thing that I have to do is press next. It's chosen my microphone for me, which is the microphone that came with the system. And I have chosen my input and output device. It makes sense to have them both the same. This is my aggregate device, which is made up of my AudioFuse 16 rig and my Audient Evo 16. They are connected together by word clock and as an aggregate device within the Mac OS. You can see that there's a bit of signal coming up where it says microphone signal here. That's because I've got the mic plugged in and phantom power engaged on the system. So the next thing to do is to choose what type of monitoring I want. I normally go for studio wide area, although this isn't a quote unquote proper studio and I don't always have people in here with me. It does make sense as far as I'm concerned to have as wide a sweet spot as possible. So I normally go for that, but there are other options. Project Studio. I don't have my monitors on the desk, so that doesn't make sense to me. This one probably makes more sense from a pure mixing perspective. Like I said, this is the one I normally choose because I often have artists in the studio with me. However, I don't have a couch at the back of the studio. I have a DJ set up at the back of the studio, so there's nowhere for them to sit and my equipment doesn't need to hear what's going on. And I'm not in a movie theatre. So that's why I normally choose studio wide area. I've already set up the microphone to the required height. I have markings set on this stand. One which is at air height, one which is 15 centimeters below air height. And then if I drop this all together, this gap here is another 15 centimeters. So if I drop this, it goes 15 centimeters below air height. And if I raise it to this bottom mark, it takes it 15 centimeters above air height. And at this white mark, it's at air height. So now I need to play the test signal. It's a bit annoying, as you can hear. Now I'm adjusting the gain on the mic pre. And the gain was adjusted to 44 decibels. Now here you have a choice of whether you go for 7 points, which is where you do the measurements but only at air level, or 21 points, which is where you do the measurements 7 times at 3 different levels: air level, 15 centimeters below and 15 centimeters above. And as you can see, layer 1 is the layer below air level. So that's where I need to adjust the mic stand until it's at the correct level, which in this case is literally all the way down. So I undo the catch, lower the mic, make sure it's pointing straight forward, and retighten the catch. So now it's given me the opportunity to measure the first layer, and I do so by clicking this button here. I happen to have room correction on the Arc Studio from a previous measurement. I've made changes, which is why I'm measuring the studio again. So I need to turn the room correction off on the unit. It's now been disengaged and I can click OK. And as you can see from the screen, there are 7 points of measurement. I've marked out the first 3, or sorry, I should say numbers 1, 4 and 5. 2 and 3 I will estimate, and I'm going to measure out 2 more marks for 6 and 7. Now I have to try and be careful not to step on the mark as I'm moving the mic and other things around the room. Some people would suggest taking your chair out of the room before you do the measurement to make it easier to move things around. That has its merits, but I also think it's a good idea to have as much of what's going to be in the room at the time that you're doing the measurement. I start by clicking capture point now that I've got the mic in position. Now at this point I'm going to have to move my chair because it's going to be in the way of the mic stand. Actually in this case it's not, so I can leave the chair where it is. I just need to get out of the way myself. And like I said, try not to stand on the marks. And this is the final measurement in this layer. So back to position 1, undo the bar, raise it up to the next marker, which is air level, retighten the bar, make sure that the microphone's still pointing straight forward, and onto measure layer 2. Now the camera I'm using has a finite amount of time before it switches itself off, but you've got the gist of it. So in case this bit of the video cuts short, you'll know why. Onto placement 4. And the final measurements at the final height, which is the second mark on here, which is the red tape. Tighten it so it doesn't fall down, but loose enough for me to adjust to make sure the mic's pointing forward, then tighten. And measure layer 3. And finally, Esther, for those of you who are old enough to remember that reference, there are, of course, people who criticise these room correction systems. Some people think it's all a gimmick or a fraud. I actually don't think it hurts. Of course, because you're not in the room with me, you will never know the difference that it actually makes coming through my speakers. So it's telling me to press next, and I will. It's asking me to choose some speakers, and I'm going to choose these ones because why not? And give the correction a name. So I'm going to pick a name here and edit it to today's date, which is the 7th of January. So that would be 07012026. Now I'm not going to close this analysis yet because I might need to do another one. But what I will do is bring up the ARC software and I will load that last analysis. And if I take away the after and zoom in a bit, you can see there's a bit of a dip at 100 Hertz or just below 100 Hertz. Most of the dip appears to be at about 3 kilohertz, which is interesting. So if I put the correction back in, for some reason it makes the dip that was just below 100 Hertz deeper at just above 100 hertz. That's interesting as well. So it's on custom target number 1 at the moment, but I can always, if we go to standard control room, or we can go to control room contour, which are actually pretty similar to each other. What would a bright tilt look like? Or a warm tilt? But let's go back to custom 1. Let's store it. And by storing it, we have put this correction into the hardware. And now we're going to turn the hardware on. I will listen to some music and report back. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time or not. And either way, I hope you do something that makes you happy.